10 receptions for 169 yards. If I'd have told you that I thought Ronald Darby had won the matchup against Julio Jones in week 1, especially after that statistic, you'd probably tell me I was a little bit crazy. The great thing about NFL game film though is that it gives you a different perspective to the one that you experience with the raw emotion of a live TV broadcast. So that brings me to a very new series idea. Each week I'm going to take a few different matchups from around the league, different receivers versus different cornerbacks that are causing a bit of controversy. Who's winning the matchup? Who really won on the day, regardless of what the statistics say? On this hand, you've got one half of the Eagles fan base clamouring for Ronald Darby being defensive MVP, and on the other saying that Julio Jones toasted the Eagles secondary for close to 170 yards. So who really came out on top? Let's take a look at the eye in the sky for the first ever episode of One-on-One Eagles Film Room. Let's take a look at one of the first big plays of the game. Julio Jones drives the Falcons offense inside the 10-yard line with a massive reception on their opening drive of the game. Now Ronald Darby actually makes a stop here, and on surface value, because he's around the ball, it may look like he's at fault. But if we slow this play down and look at it from a different angle, what we see is a very good play from the cornerback and a weakness from another area. So here's the route itself. Darby in zone coverage at that point is playing the angle perfectly. He's sat between the flat and the receiver breaking in the gap between himself and the safety. He's able to break back to the ball at an alarming rate and make a challenge that Corey Graham may have otherwise missed. And that breaking speed is something we see throughout this contest. The Falcons tried to get Julio Jones to come under Ronald Darby time and time again. The Eagles cornerback was having none of it for most of the time. Take a look at this route a little bit closer. Darby refuses to put his foot in the ground until absolutely necessary, keeps his eyes fixed on the quarterback and breaks on the ball to force a huge pass breakup when the Eagles needed it most. This brings me very neatly onto my next point, which is that Ronald Darby plays the cornerback position with his head on a swivel. He keeps his eyes in the backfield, and especially with these kind of receivers, it means that he's not going to be fixed all in with every chip on the table on that route. What a guy like Julio Jones can do so well is ruin a cornerback's career because they're so fixated on stopping him. We see it time and time again, but Darby realises that at the end of the day, if the ball's not coming your way, you don't need to focus on what route Jones is running, just stay in proximity and wait for the ball to come your way. There is no point bringing a knife to a gunfight, and that's what it's unfortunately going to be against someone as electric as Julio Jones. Inside the red zone though, Darby did have an ace up his sleeve. He's able to play physical without drawing a penalty or putting his hands on Julio. Slow this down and watch Darby's positioning. All he's doing is having his arms by his side, staying compact, and he knows if that ball is going straight to the chest of Julio, he can get his arm underneath and punch it away. Ryan's got no other choice but to throw it away, but even so, great coverage in a tight spot by Ronald Darby. Lining up against the best route runner in the league is by no means an easy task, but even there, Darby's not looking at Jones, he's fixed on the quarterback, and because of that, he's able to break perfectly on a route he didn't even know Jones was running. Great play by Darby, but they attacked him all game underneath because that's what Julio does best. Just pinch you, get the body turned, and almost stop to a complete halt instantly without you able to do much. And we'll see a great example of that right here. Julio comes charging at Darby, forces him to turn his back, and then burns him underneath. Now the ball doesn't end up being thrown Julio's way, we'll get to that in a second, but first a closer look at the route. Was there much that Ronald Darby could have done here, or is this Julio? Oh, it's just Julio being Julio. At that point, Darby's facing the wrong way, Julio's looking for the ball and adjusting on a comeback route. There's nothing Darby can do except closing over the top. So why did Matt Ryan miss that pass? A great secondary needs a great pass rush and vice versa, and the Eagles have got both of those in full flourishment right now. That's the reason why the moment Matt Ryan looked to his top read, it just wasn't going to get past the almighty Eagles pass rush. However, they didn't stop them attacking him over and over and over again. We see another effort here where Julio Jones is going to come right by Ronald Darby, put on the brakes and force Darby to go backwards a couple of yards. Darby does a great job of swinging his hips open, transitioning his weight and breaking back over the top to ensure that ball does stay on the spot. But even so, it's a tricky route. And this was probably the worst of the afternoon. Jones put Darby on skates here. It's a bliss route. by the top receiver in the NFL in my opinion, but Darby can't really do much in this situation. Smooth back pedal, keeps his back focused, his eyes on the ball, but Julio Jones is just too quick to change direction and is able to really pick off a Matt Ryan pass that's put on a perfect spot for him. It's crazy to me that Jones can get that much separation when a cornerback is 8 yards away, but what about at the line of scrimmage? That's an entirely different story as well. Now Darby recovered well here to ensure that ball doesn't get thrown in Julio's direction, but it takes Jones just one step of his outside foot to push all of his weight from there, force himself inside and explode past Ronald Darby. By the time that back leg is on the floor, Darby's then going to put his back foot down, open his hips and then adjust to a receiver that's already maybe a yard past him. The explosiveness that Jones can get out of just one step is unparalleled. But what happens when Darby cannot get level with him? What happens when he's having to fight from behind? And this is where the ball hawk comes in and a very unique skill set takes over. Julio Jones is going to run an out route right here, and again we just see a great break on the ball by Ronald Darby, reading the quarterback, reading where that ball is going to go, and again watch how compact he's going to be. Julio Jones is going to come steaming at him full speed, compact back pedal, and at that point makes a great break, opens his hips really smoothly and immediately starts accelerating. Great arm positioning to deflect that ball, didn't sit back, let the reception happen, he got involved. We see another example here, a great pass breakup where again Julio Jones gets inside because that's what Julio Jones does. It takes one step, he transitions all that way inside, and all you can do as Ronald Darby is adjust and play catch up, and even there he's a step behind, but he leaps over the top and uses that length to get the ball down. And then of course came the big one, when it all mattered most, when the game was on the line. Julio Jones versus Ronald Darby for the second time. Incomplete, and Ronald Darby seals the win for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's a clean play by the cornerback. Jones is going to use his frame, he's got to use every bit of that catch radius, and Darby ensures it's a no-fly zone for the Falcons wide receiver. But isn't it interesting that out of 10 receptions for 169 yards, this was every target Ronald Darby's way in this video? How many were Ronald Darby's fault? Did Ronald Darby shut Julio Jones down? Did Julio Jones win the game because he had 169 yards? I need you ragers, because that is what you are. We've got nearly 3,200 of you now, to let me know in the comments who you thought won this matchup. Was it Ronald Darby? Was it Julio Jones? I want to see you guys go absolutely crazy on this video. Let's try and hit 1,000 likes, and subscribe if you're new around here. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next week for another episode of Eagles Film Room. The grind is not stopping. We've got one more this week, so stay tuned.